Hi, it's Kyle Meredith. Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville and Consequence of Sound. My guest today is the band Hopalong. I got to speak with Francis Quinlan about the new record Bark Your Head Off, Dog, especially about its theme that sort of has the line in it, man's misuse of power. We also dig into two of its songs, How Simple and Not Able, and how Bill Callahan of Smug inspired a cheerleading sequence. It's Kyle Meredith with Hopalong.
Hi, this is Francis.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well. I will try not to gush too much because you've got my favorite record of the year right now. I've been blown away by it.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to come play.
I know. So Saturday, June 23rd at Zanzibar, you're going to be back here in Louisville. It's going to be great to have you. But Bark Your Head Off, let's start with the beginning of the record because I feel like the album starts like I've just stumbled into a thought or an in-progress conversation. It's such a cool way to do it. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, the sequencing is always really a long process of, we go back and forth with each other and just talk about how we want the album to feel throughout. But I definitely, I very strongly am into the idea of it being a progression of a thought. Yeah, like I really like that you worded it that way.
Because it is. You just walk in on it and suddenly it's like, no, wait, I think the track skipped. Did I miss something? No, it's just there. This is where we start.
Yeah, I think we all felt pretty solid about that, about starting with How Simple. I like that, it just kicks right into it.
And it's such a huge song. I guess I read that this was originally written for a movie that didn't happen, or the song didn't happen for the movie, or some version of that.
Yeah, we were given, basically we didn't, we were still in the middle of jamming, I guess, and putting some pieces together, like ideas. And then we were approached to do a film with 2 unreleased tracks, but we didn't have any. So it kind of just kickstarted us right away into putting a whole song together. But the guidelines were very, very loose. When I was working on the lyrics, I knew I wanted it to feel a little more accessible than some of the overtly personal and visual material that I tend to make sometimes.
Well, I compliment you on the lyrics, too. How simple my heart can be. I kept rolling that over in my mind, and I thought it's as true as it is a lie, probably, for the characters in this song.
Yeah, I think it's just in reference to the embarrassment of being vulnerable to somebody else and having it go wrong.
The bigger themes in this, as I read in a lot of the interviews, and apologies for any well-worn tracks here, man's misuse of power, I feel like, is what I keep saying over and over, which is a really interesting way to phrase that too, because I thought, that's not just Trumpian, that's near biblical. How much in focus is that theme for this record?
It pervades history. It's kind of impossible to ignore, I think. But I didn't want to, I tried to keep that character, as anonymous as possible. The men of those songs, I didn't really want them to become a focus because in a way it's just, they happen to be in power. And I really was thinking a lot about just my inability or perhaps even reluctance to access my own power and the frustration and anger at that, at having believed in a falsehood for so long and kind of coming to that realization and making so many mistakes based on that, belief of that falsehood.
You found confidence, I guess, in the face of like the ugliest monsters we've seen in a while, terrorizing the playing field. It's almost movie-like in that sense.
Well, it's nice to hear that it sounds confident.
I've read about you feeling like you found your voice, or a voice that you were at least comfortable with, and to write about the themes that you were writing about. I think that's what I mean by the confidence part. It's the pushback, and with all the stuff happening out there, it also sort of feels like we're in a great awakening. Whether it's the teenagers in Florida or a record like this. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I certainly hope we are. I hope we're awakening to something. A lot of ugliness. There's been ugliness throughout history. That's absolutely certain. But we're certainly seeing more of it than we ever have, and it seems like people are reacting.
Well, we've mentioned biblical a few times, and I want to bring up that song "Not Able," which seems like an easy target for that. Not so much on the lyrics though, which are great, but the music, because I had those moments where, if you see people at a rave, and I guess it's when the bass drops or whatever, and they just start jumping around, like cheering and everything. And I had a few of those moments during this song.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Because, you start out, it's almost like old English folk guitar is going on at the beginning, and then that electric comes in, and the whole world changes. There's even a fade out in this song, which you don't hear anymore.
the fade out's a wonderful tool for people that don't really know how to end songs like myself, you know.
But there's a lot.
No, I love the
happening
fade out. It's very classic.
Yeah, because it sounds like maybe that was possibly like a few songs coming together. How did you write that song? How did you guys put that song together?
That song is kind of an interesting, I don't want to say a mess, but, you know, it's not chronologically written the way that would think it would be. The ending kind of came about first. That was from something we'd been jamming together in, actually back in 16 in March. We you know, had been playing that progression, and then the first half came around later, and the lyrics came around a bit later, too. I'd been reading this book for a while called Time for Everything by Karlova Knausgaard, this Norwegian author, that struck me pretty majorly, and I guess the lyrics kind of came around. It's so tough, but, you know, I can never really say when the lyrics come around because it's not as though they're written on top of the music. They happen in tandem, but a lot of stuff can change at the very last minute. We knew that song would need to be in two pieces just because, you know, we didn't want to give up the feeling of the end, but it did melodically fit with the beginning. And I liked the idea of having, you know, kind of a waltz turn into a dance, like a contemporary dance, I guess.
I mean, there's a lot going on in many of these songs. And the fact that you're sort of self-producing, it's really surprising that some of it doesn't end up a garbled mess because of all the things that are happening.
We're so fortunate to have an excellent producer / engineer in our band, which is Joe. I mean, Joe produced Get Disowned and engineered it, and he's done a number of records since then, like many records. So he's plenty of experience under his belt. So we didn't have anything to worry about in that regard, which, you know, again, we're very fortunate to have that resource. And the studio they have is great. Headroom is just an excellent place to make a record. I'll
bring up another song with One That Suits Me, a cheerleading chant that I think I would love to hear a high school squad actually do.
That would be great. I hope that maybe we get them to come to a show.
Where did that idea come from, if there's a specific spot?
Honestly, I won't lie. I was inspired by, there's a song called Blood Flow by Smog, and he's got these cheerleaders on it, and I don't know, I love that song. And that, you know, I didn't really intend that for One That Suits Me, but, you know, you spend enough hours in the studio and you just start to have all sorts of weird ideas, and that was one of them. I think I was standing behind Mark, and I just started chanting. He's like, that's pretty cool.
The refrain in that song, I am for peace, one that suits me, does that come from anything as well?
Somebody said, you know, it was like a general said it, like, I am for peace, of course I'm for peace, or something like that. I was reading about World War I in the library because Joe got me into this podcast called Hardcore History. We were on tour a couple of years back, and Joe had been listening to this series about World War I, and I just got totally wrapped up in it. And, I mean, of course, I'm not going to at all say that I'm in any way an expert.
I love the way it comes out. And seriously, I can't give you enough compliments on this because I'm so in love with this record and the way it's done. There's so many surprises and turns in the best way in every single one of the songs. I really think you guys outdid yourself.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it. It's weird to come as close to saying what I think we meant to say. It's a new feeling. I mean, I'm kind of used to the feeling of like making peace with an album, but I think we did something that we never have before, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, I'm happy to keep listening to it too, and I'm excited to see you all again in Louisville, June 23rd at Zanzibar. I thank you, Francis, for giving me the call today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you at the show then. Yeah,
I'll be
great.
There. All right.
Great.
Take care.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks to Francis from Hop Along for giving me the call. The new record is Bark Your Head Off Dog. Don't forget to subscribe to Consequence of Sound's YouTube channel to keep up with your favorite artists and interviews. And head over to WFPK.org, where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.